Hello, my friends, and welcome to No Nonsense Metal Reviews. I'm George, and today I'm back with a bit of a special. This is a metal head to head, pitting two albums head to head to see maybe not which one is better, but certainly which one I personally prefer. Analysing two albums which are very current. In fact, they are both celebrating their 20th anniversary in pretty spectacular style. We are going to be putting head to head the second album from US, I guess, new wave of heavy metal stars that they have become. This is Trivium with Ascendancy from 2005. Second album, as I say, against the debut from Welsh heavy metalers and one of the biggest bands to have been produced by the UK for some time. This is Bullet for My Valentine with The Poison. So both of these albums are currently enjoying the spotlight as part of the Poisoned Ascendancy 20th anniversary tour. Both bands co-headlining. It's underway here in the UK first of all, and then it will be doing its rounds across the States following this tour. But both albums are being performed in full. So that's going to be one hell of a night. I'm very much looking forward to the Birmingham show on the 31st of January. Very, very much looking forward to that. These are two bands which I have been following for pretty much as long as I have been into music. And I know that to some heavy music fans, it's almost a sin to be talking about two bands that are so popular and accessible and mainstream within heavy music. But actually, Bullet for My Valentine and Trivium are two hugely important bands to me, to so many heavy music fans, and they are a massive gateway band. They're a massive influence band that they are more accessible than the more obscure stuff, of course, and they help aspiring music fans to discover more brilliant music on the heavier end of the sound wave spectrum. And actually, these are two bands that have meant a huge amount to me since very early on. The first band I ever discovered and got into was Slipknot around the age of 12, just turning 13. Absolutely adored them. From them, it was into Avenged Sevenfold and Disturbed. Not far behind was Bullet for My Valentine and then Trivium. And so on and so forth. And now, if you follow the channel, you've seen my other reviews, you know I love my death metal, my black metal, thrash metal. I love all the good, heavy, extreme stuff. But for me, these are two bands where it kind of started. These were with me from a very early stage, and these are two albums that I have absolutely loved over the years. So I'm thrilled to be able to get an opportunity to see the Poisoned Ascendancy tour here in the UK. Two great albums, two brilliant bands performing in full these classics. Absolutely thrilled to get that opportunity. And these are two albums that I feel are very evenly matched. Very evenly matched. Same year, you know, they're both four-piece bands, very similar style of music, and I am just going to say that I feel both of these bands are quite difficult to pigeonhole. I wouldn't want to bother wasting my time and effort trying to say that Bullet or Trivium are thrash metal bands or metalcore bands or heavy metal bands, because essentially they're a bit of all of those things. They have traditional heavy metal elements in there, they have thrash metal elements in there, and they also have kind of hardcore metalcore elements going on there as well. They are both very diverse bands, but although they have lots of different flavors and flares, they don't really fit comfortably into any pigeonhole. So really, they are just new wave of metal bands from the early 2000s. They were both great bands, massively influential, hugely important to modern heavy music, and they're great at what they do. So you like them or not, I'm personally a big fan. So these two very evenly matched albums, there's a lot of similarities there. They're both very good. They're both actually really quite sophisticated albums for a debut and a sophomore album, respectively, with Bullet and Trivium. They are really good albums for so many different reasons. So let's go with The Poison first of all, as it is Bullet for My Valentine's debut album. It's also probably still one of their biggest or most popular albums, alongside Scream Aim Fire and Fever, perhaps. But I think this holds a very special space in a lot of music fans' hearts, certainly of a certain generation, my generation, and maybe the ones above and below. This is a very special album for lots of reasons. First of all, the sound of the album is brilliant. It's actually, and I was quite surprised, I didn't quite realise this until delving back into the album and doing a little bit of background research, but the album is actually produced and mixed by Colin Richardson. Absolute legend, has touched so many great albums and been involved in the processes, producing, mixing, remixing, mastering so many great bands and albums, from the likes of Carcass through Bolt Thrower, through Machine Head, through countless others. And there's also input from Andy Sneap on Hit the Floor as well. So you've got great minds behind the mixing and production elements of the album here. You've also got 12 tracks and the intro. The intro to the album, it actually features Apocalyptica, the kind of orchestral metal band, I suppose, or the orchestral band. 12 proper tracks, which just under an hour long in duration, this album, but it just hits hard. This is a really heavy album. It's a really good album, and it also includes some Bullet for My Valentine's most notable songs. And if you're not familiar with Bullet for My Valentine, or you need a little reminder, the band consists of vocalist, frontman, guitarist Matt Tuck, a great vocalist, and I feel like he does a really good job vocally throughout this album. We've got Moose Thomas on drums, no longer with the band. We've got bass and vocals from Jay James, also no longer in the band. And we've got Padge on guitars. And I will say, and I've said this before, when talking about just how absolutely phenomenal Bullet for My Valentine are live, after I caught them a few years back at Cambridge Corn Exchange. I think that was the third or fourth time that I've seen them. Third time, I think. They are incredible live, and Padge is a phenomenal guitarist. That guy can absolutely shred. Seriously shred. So great lineup there, that four-piece. All good. The drumming is great. I love the ferocity of the drumming there. Absolutely killer stuff. The riffs, though, Matt and Padge are a great guitar duo. The rhythm guitars, and there's so much chug. There's some great thrashing riffs in there, as well as some good sort of galloping heavy metal riffs. But there's some blinding solos and leads. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. Bass is great, prominent, always like that, as I've commented before so many times here in my reviews. But we get the first track proper on the album, second song, Her Voice Resides. That is a beastly way to kick into the album. After that nice orchestral intro piece, we get this absolute rager of a track. A full throttle vocal assault with a screech from Matt, riffs being thrown at you, hurtling at you like there's no tomorrow. This is a freaking great opener. It's also one of the best tracks on the album. A hell of a track. Then we're launched straight into Four Words to Choke Upon. That is one of the big anthems, fan favourites from this album. And as a hormonal, angsty teen, that was exactly the kind of song that I just latched onto. So much attitude, so much frustration in there. So good. Again, musicianship is solid. We get some cracking riffs. I mean, top-notch stuff. And it's so catchy. It's so anthemic. It's brilliant. Tears Don't Fall. Of course, that is one of their biggest songs. One of Bullet for My Valentine's biggest songs. It's their big anthem. It's the sing-along. We all know it. It's just a fan favourite. It's a brilliant track, though. It's more of a melodic song, yeah. But there's some really heavy parts in there. Vocally, it's just going to appeal to the disillusioned masses, the teenager in us all. Absolutely brilliant track. Suffocating Under Words of Sorrow is another one, which is, it's very catchy, very anthemic there. A great track, love it. Hit the Floor is one of my other album highlights, definitely. It's a very heavy song. I love some of those thrashing riffs we get in there. Absolutely crushing stuff. It just sounds brilliant. It's so memorable as well. And that's the real thing from revisiting this album, The Poison, quite a few times recently. It's so memorable. It's such catchy stuff, but it's brilliant. It really is fantastic. All these things I hate revolve around me is, again, it's screaming angst. There's so much frustration in there, but the whole delivery of it is so good. It's so well structured. The songs they're intricate. And I think that's both the case with both of these albums. They're intricate. There's not much here that you can really pick holes in and criticize. It's well written, well produced stuff. Great stuff, in fact. Room 409, another favourite of mine. Absolutely love that. It's a heavy, heavy song. Probably one of the heaviest on the album. Great chugging riffs in there. Hits hard. Guaranteed to get a pit going. Can't wait to hear that one live. The Poison title track is another phenomenal track. I really like that. Again, it's got more of the heavy metal flair to it, and it really works. 10 Years Today is their more melodic, more melancholic track. It's the slower pace one. Not quite a ballad, not quite a full ballad, but certainly a heavy metal number, and it's good. Cries in Vain, very catchy. A heavier number, some delightful chugging riffs in there. Spit You Out, another heavy one. It's really consistent throughout this album. Really catchy songs, really, really catchy sing-along choruses, big tracks, great riffs. There isn't any sort of filler here at all. Doesn't give that impression at all, even towards the end of the album. And then we close with The End, which is sort of getting on for 7 minutes long, I believe, track, which has a stunning intro. It's kind of gentle guitar work intro there, before getting quite sinister and macabre with the lyrics, and then just absolutely flooring you with some of the heaviest riffing on the album. It's amazing. I love this album, and listening to it quite a lot recently, as I say, it's really taken me back to my early to mid-teens, and how much I absolutely adored this album. So influential, meant so much to me, really got me hooked on Bullet for My Valentine, and also just on heavy music. They really were torch bearers, and they really are. They are still that important band. You look at their position on lineups over the years, they've been climbing and climbing and climbing, and with good reason, because they are a superb band, incredible live as well. So we've got a really strong album here, The Poison. How is it going to stack up against Ascendancy? Or how is Ascendancy going to stack up against The Poison? Now, this album, just like The Poison for Bullet for My Valentine, Ascendancy was the album that really, really kicked things up a notch, really took them places. Trivium were already active. They'd released the debut album, Embers to Inferno, which certainly not as impactful as the follow-up album, Ascendancy, but this album is next level stuff. So first of all, it's a Roadrunner Records album. So it's on a major label, but it's also produced by Jason Sukoff, very notable, prominent figure, and a legendary producer, alongside Matt Heafy, vocalist guitarist, and it's also mixed by Andy Sneap. So you've got, again, very capable production here, and it really does show. But Ascendancy made Trivium a very popular band, certainly here in the UK, and I know that they have been quite vocal about how they built popularity and a fan base here in the UK before they did really anywhere else, before they made it in the rest of Europe or the USA. The UK really latched onto Trivium, and certainly the Ascendancy was the ticket that got them there. That and that infamous spot on the Download Festival lineup, where they managed to summon, I think it was a record, and I don't know if they still hold it, but they had a record number of Circle Pits in that early low down the bill slot that they had at the legendary Download. So it's an important album because it really did get things going for Trivium. It's also a fantastic album that, just like The Poison, includes some of Trivium's biggest and most popular songs. Tracks like Rain, Pull Harder on the Strings of Your Martyr, Gunshot to the Head of Trepidation, Like Light to the Flies, Dying in Your Arms. These are big fan favourite tracks, and they're also tracks that have featured and, well, continued to be in Trivium's live set over the years. Just like Bullet have kept tracks like Tears Don't Fall and 4 Words to Choke Upon, and various others as well. They've kept those early favourites in their live sets all these years, and with good reason. Trivium certainly have with Ascendancy. I saw Trivium in the Court of the Dragon tour, the Norwich UEA a few years back, and there was early cuts being dug out for that tour, and they are such a great band live. They are such a phenomenal live band. In fact, Trivium and Saxon are the two bands that I've seen the most live, 6 times respectively. So I'm looking forward to making it number 7 for Trivium. That would be the most times I've seen one particular band live. So that's just dawned on me. That's important. That's special. But getting back to Ascendancy, very similar in its structure to The Poison. So we've got an orchestral intro, the end of everything, before Rain absolutely crushes you. It absolutely grabs you by the throat and just launches you around the room. We're straight in there with some amazing chugging riffs. Lineup here, just for context, is Matt Hafey, vocals, guitars, alongside Corey on guitars and backup vocals, Paolo Gregoletto on bass, and Travis Smith on drums. Travis no longer with the band, but a superb drummer. Absolutely hammers the kit here. Phenomenal stuff. Riffs for days, and then Matt's interesting, iconic vocals. He does have a unique vocal style, I feel, heavily influenced by Ishan, of course, and he makes that quite well known. He's got a good, almost like a thrash metal vocal style, shout, but he does good cleans as well. Very good. And actually, he is a great vocalist across the board. So Rain kicks things off and kicks you in the freaking face. I love it. It's one of my favourite tracks. And I can actually still remember hearing this album for the first time as like a 13, 14-year-old and thinking that this is some of the most heavy, extreme stuff ever. Surely this has got to be one of the heaviest albums of all time. Obviously, the more music you consume, you realise that might not be the case, but it's fantastic stuff. We're then into Pull Harder on the Strings of Your Martyr, which is a unique masterpiece. It's a great track, some phenomenal guitar playing. Again, these are 2 very evenly matched bands in that they've both got excellent players. Great drumming, great riffs, great bass, the whole package. So good. Pull Harder on the Strings of Your Martyr, fantastic song. Hard hitting and heavy. We've got the rather melodic, mid-paced Drowned and Torn Asunder, which has a beautiful intro into some mega chugging riffs, into driving, pummeling heavy metal. Not much not to like there. The title track, Ascendancy, is a great one. Great chorus. Really catchy. Really soaring stuff in there. It's great. Freaking love it. A Gunshot to the Head of Trepidation is an anthem. It's a very anthemic chant-along track. Great one, though. Absolutely love it. Again, the guitar work there is blinding. Freaking love it. Another very popular track would be Like Light to the Flies. I know that there's an old music video for that one, and it's a bit of a fan favourite. I love that song. I think it's absolutely fantastic. When that chorus comes in, you can't help but sing along. It just gets you going, and I have always loved that number. No matter how popular it may be, or mainstream, whatever, who cares? That's so catchy. Absolutely love it. Then we've got their big ballad track here, Dying in Your Arms. And I think that's fair to say that is a bit of a ballad track. You know, that is a ballad. But it's a good song. It's not one of my favourite tracks from the album. I think, interestingly, both albums are all killer, no filler, definitely. But I think the really interesting thing about Ascendancy is that the second half of the album are, well, more than the second half. So if we go tracks 9 through 12, I actually feel that those tracks are stronger than the first half of the album. If you take The Deceived, that's a massive track. That's a freaking great track. That's one of my favourite songs from the album. And I can't wait to hear that live because it is huge. There's a great chorus in there, but the guitar work, there's a lot more intricacy there. You know, it's a heavy freaking track. It's thrashing, it's ripping, but it's got almost like a bit of a progressive flair to it at times. Similar situation with Suffocating Sight, with Departure, and with Declaration as well. There's almost like progressive elements in there, great heavy sections. Suffocating Sight, another track with a great chorus, very catchy stuff. Departure, absolutely love that track. Even when these songs kind of they deviate between being really heavy and being a bit more melodic or a little bit more kind of mid-paced, it's done so well. And I really do feel like there's something quite interesting about those last 4 tracks of the album in particular. Whereas the first large part, the first it's kind of half of the album, if you like, with tracks like Rain, Pull Harder, Gunshot, and Like Light to the Flies, those are really heavy tracks. Those last 4 are still heavy, but there's a bit more kind of progression and intricacy there. I like it. And they've really stood out for me from revisiting this album a lot recently, that I don't feel like I've really appreciated before just how great those final 4 tracks are. The Deceived, Suffocating Sight, Departure, and Declaration. Those are great. Those are really, really great tracks. Absolutely love it. So both are superb albums, and I feel like both of them are going to translate so well in that live kind of in full. They're not going head to head. These are 2 bands, Bullet for My Valentine, Trivium, that are clearly good friends. They clearly get along. It doesn't appear to be a competition at all. But maybe it's just my mind. I thought, which am I kind of looking forward to hearing the most? Because they're both such strong albums. They're both such classics. They're both fan favourites, and they're both favourites of mine. Yeah, these are 2 of my favourite albums from those respective bands. So, what one am I looking forward to the most? Well, with Bullet, I'm definitely looking forward to hearing some of the deeper cuts. Tracks like Room 409, Cries in Vain. Definitely looking forward to Hit the Floor. But I can hear those classics and those fan favourites like Her Voice Resides, 4 Words, Tears Don't Fall. I can hear them 1,000 times more and still be absolutely buzzing from hearing it. But I have to say, I think of these 2, the one that I am looking forward to the most has to be Ascendancy. No discredit in the least to Bullet for My Valentine or The Poison. That is such a great album. It's a benchmark album. But there's something about Ascendancy which I feel has a greater degree of, it's almost like it's an atmosphere to it. It has its own atmosphere, just like The Poison does. But there's a magic to it. There's something about it. It's such a great album, and it's absolutely captivating. I found from listening to this quite a number of times in full, with the headphones on, just immersing in it. It's a really encapsulating, immersive album. You get that great intro, yes, but then from tracks like Rain and Pull Harder, it's an assault, but you are gripped. And then when you get those melodic parts and those kind of cleans, you're there. It just sweeps you up. So I cannot wait to hear how this album translates in full live. The deeper cuts, I feel, will be a real treat. I cannot wait to hear that kind of second half of the album. I'll admit, Dying in Your Arms is a great number. I can probably, take or leave that. And of course, I'm buzzing for the fan favourites, the bigger tracks like Light to the Flies, Gunshot to the Head of Trepidation. But what about Drowned and Torn Asunder? What about Ascendancy? How are these tracks going to translate 20 years later live? I have to say, as reluctant as I am to have to choose between them, I think the one that I'm looking forward to the most, by just a little margin, is going to be Ascendancy. Bullet are such a great band, such an important band, and these albums are very, very close. Very close indeed. But there's something about Ascendancy. I'm looking forward to that. I think Trivium are a next level band. Absolutely. Freaking love Trivium. I know they're headlining Bloodstock Festival as well this year. Testament to them that they're now at that level, festival headliner level. They're going places. And I don't feel that either of these two bands are going to be necessarily bigger than the other. I feel like they're both at that top level and they both deserve it, definitely. So for me, in this metal head-to-head, Ascendancy comes out on top by a small margin because The Poison is a legendary album and I freaking love it. So there we have it. Trivium, Ascendancy, Bullet for My Valentine, The Poison. They're co-headlining the Poison Ascendancy tour, sweeping across the UK at present before jumping the pond. Interested to hear thoughts and opinions of others on this. What do you prefer? Are you in the Poison camp or are you in Ascendancy camp? Not that this really matters at all because they're both great bands, great albums, but what do you prefer? What one are you looking forward to more? Or which one do you prefer? Interested to hear thoughts and opinions of others on this one, as always. But if you do get a chance still, if there's tickets available, whatever, if you get a chance to catch these bands on the road together, performing these classic albums, do jump on it. Do not miss out. But do get involved. What are your thoughts and opinions on these bands, on these albums? What is your preferred album? Ascendancy or The Poison? Let me know. Thanks very much for watching this humble review. Please do feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment. Support is very much appreciated as always. Do check back soon for more reviews and recommendations of all the good heavy things. Until next time, take care of yourselves, listen to Bullet and Trivium, and stay heavy.